I'm going to talk about all of the zoning generally in the neighborhood, and then I will talk specifically about the RE7 site, the surplus school site, but also I'm going to talk about city initiative, which is going on right now, and that is to completely revamp the entire zoning bylaw. And I'm going to talk about how that may or may not affect us. As most of you know, about 11 years ago now, in 2012, the surplus school site in our park was rezoned RA7. So here's that RA7 site, the surplus school site. I've just noted up there that it is 1.13 hectares, which is just under 3 acres in size. And you'll see the list of permitted uses in this zone, a little lengthier than the single family. Multi-unit housing, of course, which is the apartment, lodging houses, childcare services, convenience and general retail are both permitted uses under RA7. Health services, offices of various kinds, and specialty foods. Specialty foods would be something like a cafe, a coffee shop. It's not a drive-in like a Tim Hortons, but it is a cafe or a coffee or a tea shop. Discretionary uses, fraternity and sorority houses, which tend to be not in our neighborhood, but more the university area. Religious assembly of churches, of course. Business services, personal service shops, that would be like a hair or a nail salon, and restaurants. Those are all discretionary under the current zoning on that surplus school site. The maximum height allowed is 4 stories. The next one is called FAR, that's floor area ratio. And what this means, it's simply how much square footage of a building can be developed on site. So that means it's 2.5 times the size of the site. So later on, you'll see a table, I'll give you the actual square footages, but the FAR in this case is 2.5 times the site area could be built as floor area. And the maximum density under today's RE7 zone is 45 units per hectare. And just to be clear on this, on the map on the right, you see the RA7 site there. Y'all know where it is. I'm sure it's in our park. You can't, there's nothing visual on the ground when you're in the park. It was a school site. EPSB determined it to be surplus, so it was rezoned to RA7, like I say, about 11 years ago. I'll just run through what the changes are on the current surplus school site, which is now zoned RA7, and the new zone will be called the RM, which is medium scale residential. Now, this does have some fairly significant changes to it. On the use side, some of the same uses I've been talking about, food and drink. Now, grocery stores, that's a new one that could be allowed. Indoor sales offices and the minor indoor entertainment and libraries are uses that aren't currently allowed today, but they do have restrictions. You'll see the print there in the red. The food and drink and grocery stores, they can't be standalone restaurants or grocery stores. They can only be developed on the main floor of a larger multifamily development. So if somebody did come in, put up a seniors facility on that site, those types of uses, the food and drink and grocery and the indoor sales, they can only be on the main floor. Libraries, there you have no restrictions. I think it's fairly unlikely that rather than having the seniors housing, the city would come along and build a library. It is a permitted use, it's not very likely. One of the regulations, you'll see the 3 there on the right or in the middle of your page. The biggest change is height. Today, the RA7 is maximum 4 stories in height. In the new zoning, there is a range between 4 and 8 stories. Eventually, the city, in the next round of the zoning bylaw, they will designate our RA7 site for the maximum height. I believe it's likely to be 6 stories. That hasn't been designated yet. It's possible it's 8, but I think given the context that we're all single family homes, it's likely to be allowed to 6 stories. And then that second category I mentioned, the floor area ratio, that again has a range. Today under RE7, it's 2.5. In the proposed zone, it actually reduces a little bit from 2.3 to a range of 3.3. As I mentioned, that means a building on site could have as much as 3.3 times the square footage as the land area. And the maximum density has also been increased. Today, it's 45 units per acre. In the proposed zone, it increases to 60 units per acre. Per hectare, pardon me. Next slide, please. So here is, this is now just a discussion specific to that RE7 site, the surplus school site, just so you can see what these changes would mean. So under today's RE7, I mentioned the maximum height is 4 stories. That floor area ratio, which is at 2.5 times the site, that means that 305,000 square feet of floor area could be developed in a 4-story building, and they could have a maximum of 51 units on that site. That's today's current existing zoning. In the proposed zone, that RM medium scale residential, there's the 3 height categories. On the 4-story, where the floor area ratio is 2.3, they could develop up to 280,500 square feet. Maximum will be 68 units. And the